welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Danny. This is a reaction video to the news that we have just heard that Billam-Smith and Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez are going to fight on Saturday, November the 16th in Saudi Arabia in a cruiserweight unification clash. Zurdo obviously having the WBA belt and Billam-Smith the WBO champion. Danny, just first and foremost, before we get a wee bit more into the fight and dissect it, initial thoughts on the fight, and yeah, are you excited?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Unification between the cruiserweight divisions never been the most glamorous divisions, but these are two established champions. Cruiserweight now, I know Zurdo's only won the belt, but he's a name in the sport. He's a big ticket seller. Billam-Smith made a couple of defenses now since beating Nicole. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Be interesting to see. I think the rest of the card's been announced. So obviously De La Hoya and the Saudis seem to be having that relationship now as well. I mean, it's not. I think the elephant in the room here is that I don't think anyone would have either Zurdo Ramirez or Billam-Smith as the best cruiserweight in the world, but they're probably 2 and 3 with Noah McKillian being number 4. So it's a good fight, and yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, as you said there, it's a unification clash, and whether or not we'll have him either of these boys at number one. A lot of people would obviously have Jai Optaia as the leading cruiserweight in the world right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, equally, we're getting a unification here. It's a fight that makes total sense. I think they gave Billam-Smith his credit. I think he kind of deserves that now after, as you mentioned, the two defenses after winning the world title. Big ticket seller we know in Bournemouth and fought almost every fight, if not every fight, in the UK. So yeah, he's getting his opportunity now to get in on the Saudi chain. And yeah, I'm delighted for him. As you mentioned, a few good fights there on the undercard as well. Was there Jose Ramirez fighting Arnold Barbosa Jr., I think was one of the ones, and William Zepeda, Tevin Farmer. Is that another one?
Yeah, it's a
Um,
weird one.
yeah, it's an odd one, and we'll not get into it. But two fellas from Northern Ireland here, and Jose Ramirez should have been fighting. That should have been Sean McComb. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Yeah, mate, just kind of want you to give me your kind of dissect the fight for me without kind of really giving too much of a prediction away right now. I will ask you that at the end before we head off. But what's your initial feeling on this fight? Who do you give the slight edge to, and why? What does each fighter have to do if they are to prevail here?
It's definitely a very competitive fight. I think you would have to say that Zurdo is technically the slightly better boxer in terms of pure boxing skill. He boxed quite well against both Joe Smith Jr. and Gilmarian last time out. But Billam-Smith, and particularly Billam-Smith under Shane McGuigan, they just seem to find ways to win. They seem to be able to pinpoint opponents' weaknesses and formulate a game plan to overcome those weaknesses with what Billam-Smith's capable of. So that can be a bit of an equaliser. Who do I make the favourite? It's tricky. It's a proper 50-50 fight, in my opinion. I would maybe just. I would edge Billam-Smith, I think. I sort of changed my mind as I was saying that. I picked Reactor to beat Billam-Smith and to stop him. But I thought, even though it was a fairly uneventful fight, it was one of Billam-Smith's best performances. And even though he has taken a lot of damage through his career, he seems to be taking shots well. Reactor caught him clean a couple of times. I mean, maybe slightly buzzed him once, but definitely didn't have him rocking and rolling on the brink of being stopped. And Zurdo's definitely not as big a one-punch puncher as the likes of Richard Reactor and Orange Chikole. And I just think Billam-Smith and Shane McGuigan, they'll find a way to potentially to edge him out in a very close competitive decision.
It's really interesting what you've said there, and how often are me and you talking to each other and we've both got a prediction wrong? Because I also picked Reactor to beat Billam-Smith last time, and kind of we look a bit daft now. Let's be honest. But yeah, it's one of those where I've always been a big Billam-Smith fan, but when he has stepped up, as I mentioned, that Reactor fight, even a couple of fights, yeah, his first defense, he ended up getting the stoppage victory, but it was more because of an injury. But
Yeah.
like he didn't, people are kind of saying he got lucky there. But then, that was maybe being partially in our minds for the React 4 rematch, thinking, oh dear, here he is. He's going to get beat. But I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said they just seem to find a way. Chris Billam-Smith and Shane McGugan together, formulating a game plan that is just perfect for beating whoever's in front of them. And I have no doubt that together they will put another astute game plan together for the Zurdo Ramirez fight here in November time as well. I think what you said there as well about kind of who's the favorite. It's a 50-50. It's a classic 50-50 fight. I think you're going to have a lot of people and a lot of different opinions on it. You know, even I'd say obviously a lot of maybe UK based fans will favor Billam-Smith.
Yeah.
But like you look at Zurdo Ramirez's record, and yeah, it's somewhat padded in the early stages and stuff, and it looks a lot better maybe on paper than it actually is. But he has been in with quality operators, and since being up a cruiserweight, he has looked good, as you mentioned in the last couple of performances. I I slightly give Billam-Smith the edge here as well, just because yeah, I'm done with writing them off to be honest with you, mate. So
Same.
yeah, I can't sit here and say that Zurdo Ramirez is an overriding favorite or anything here because I can't really see it. Just finally, do you think that the fact the fight's going to be in Saudi Arabia will have a positive or negative effect on Chris Billam-Smith?
It's a good question. Actually, I know he's got used to not even just the support of fighting in Bournemouth, but even you factor in the fight at Crystal Palace. He's been at fights with a good buzz and a good atmosphere and get the adrenaline going. Whereas that's probably not going to be the case in Saudi Arabia. I can't imagine too many of the Bournemouth lot or too many Mexicans are going to make the trip over for that one. So that's a good question. Actually, he'll maybe find it slightly difficult in that it might feel a bit like a behind closed doors show. I mean, if we're being real, the atmosphere at some of these Saudi shows isn't much better than behind closed doors boxing. But he's been a professional a long time. He's boxed small hall shows. He's boxed very low down and undercards, but in fights that are big fights for him at that stage of his career. So he's been fighting in 10 rounders and 50-50s, but with maybe not that many people there. So he'll have had to get up for fights without the aid of a big crowd before. Zurdo's used to fighting in front of big crowds as well. He's a big ticket seller in Mexico, so I don't think it'll play too much in terms of deciding the outcome of the fight, but it will be something that Chris Billam-Smith has not been accustomed to in recent fights, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. It will be something slightly different, and I suppose it's how they react to that on the night. Then we shall see. We shall see. I know it's really early, mate, and we're still over 2 months away from the actual fight. But seeing as it's just been announced and we're talking about it now, how, your initial thought of how the fight actually plays out and who gets their hand raised and who becomes the unified cruiserweight champion?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I do at this stage. Now this potentially could change, but would edge Chris Billam-Smith to win a close competitive decision. I think if he can take away Zurdo's range, it's actually mental when you think about it. Just a side note, but Zurdo used to box at super middleweight, the absolute size. He was a decent sized cruiserweight. He could probably fight at heavyweight, but he's a lot longer than Chris Billam-Smith. I think if Chris Billam-Smith can take away his range, make it a more war of attrition, get up close, maybe make it not the best fight to watch. A lot of Chris Billam-Smith, not necessarily always his fault, but they can sometimes not be the best to watch. I think that would suit him. And yeah, I fancy him to win maybe like an 8-4, 7-5 decision in terms of the rounds.
Yeah, mate, I'm going with Billam-Smith as well. 2 for 2. Can I see him stopping Zurdo Ramirez at this stage? No, but as you said, there's plenty of time for opinions to change, whether that be in favor of Billam-Smith, maybe even stopping Zurdo, or completely flipping the other way and backing the Mexican. So yeah, time will tell, mate. Time will tell. But
So we're,
it's
we're
another
both on
good.
Billam-Smith then.
Yeah,
Get your
well,
money
and
on
we
Zurdo then, folks.
I was gonna say we've got history. Oh dear. Anyway, Danny, thanks very much for jumping on, mate. And guys, if you're watching this video, please do drop us a like, drop us a comment, what your thoughts on the fight. Or Danny and I talking nonsense as per usual, or do you think Billam-Smith maybe does have the edge? As always, subscribe to the channel too. There's a wee icon in the corner there to do so, and we've got plenty of boxing content coming your way over the next few weeks and months. Danny, thanks very much for joining me, mate. Speak to you again soon.
No bother, mate. Thanks.